We've just had one of the most momentous weeks for any US president. How do you see the peace deal and what Donald Trump has been able to achieve in his second term thus far?
Yeah, well, first off, Rita, it's really good to see you again. I feel like we're old friends at this point, which doesn't seem possible, but the last time I saw you was right here in this city in 2000. It was February of 2019, and the world has changed an awful lot since then.
That's just a memory hole, that entire little COVID era, because as you know, in Melbourne here, we had 6 lockdowns. We went quite crazy.
You guys did. I was in California, and I was looking at you guys like, boy, this is a bit much. But all of that aside, look, this has been an unbelievable week, not only for Donald Trump, but the United States of America, the Middle East, and I would say literally for the entire globe. I am not one of the people that's going to sit here and tell you that this is peace in the way that we all want peace to be, like the end of a movie where everyone's going to be happy and we enter utopia together. But what peace can be in the Middle East is, at least for now, the end of the fighting. At least the Israelis have the hostages back. At least the Gazans will have a chance to rebuild, and they're the ones that are going to have to deal with de-radicalization and getting rid of whatever remnants of Hamas are. But I would say in the broader Middle East, the idea that Israel is there. And if the Arab states can accept it, if the Houthis can stop shooting rockets, Hezbollah has largely been destroyed in Lebanon. The Iranians lost their airspace in basically 24 hours in the quickest war that anyone ever, there were all these people screaming about World War III. It was a 12-day war. So the enemies of Israel have realized, hey, they're there. And if you reach your hand out in peace, you will find a hand outstretched to you. That has become very clear. I think there will be an extension of the Abraham Accords. And then to whatever degree the Palestinians are able to build a civil society, they will be able to find some way to continue that with the Israelis. So it is a really, really good time, and Donald Trump deserves all of the credit. Nobody else was going to do this. We're through 4 years of a fog of a presidency under Biden or whoever was running it, and it would have. Is apt.
Word.
I would say it's apt. It's probably, or an auto pen presidency, whatever it was, and it could have been Kamala Harris, who nobody had any faith in and was not, certainly not qualified to be president. She wasn't qualified to be vice president either, but that's a whole other issue. So Donald Trump deserves the credit. The world is a safer place right now, and we just need good people to keep forging that forward.
You said Kamala wasn't qualified to be president. She's just come out and said she's the most qualified candidate ever. I mean, it is quite incredible. She says people are saying this. I don't know which people are precisely saying this, but she claims people are saying this.
Well, if people are saying it, it must be true. It's funny because Donald Trump says that a lot. People are saying this. People are saying this. And now she said it. People are saying this. I mean, no. She not only was not, first off, she was not qualified to be vice president. She was hired, in essence, or chosen to be vice president because of her skin color and her gender. That's what Joe Biden himself said. So for anyone that's angry when people say that, that's why Joe Biden said he selected her. And let's not forget, in her own primary against Joe Biden, she was polling at about 1% in her party before she dropped out. So look, she's largely irrelevant. She also had a coup of a sitting president because they clearly pushed Biden out against his will, even though he obviously was not qualified to be president or to continue to be president right now. I mean, look, it's only roughly a year ago that the man was still running for president. It's a little more than a year ago. Exactly. And it was only because of that debate that they forced him out. Now, all of us online, I've been watching your show for a long time. You were making the same jokes over here in Australia that I was making about him in America. So all of them need to go away for a while and let Donald Trump fix things, and then we can pick this up in a couple of years.
Well, the Democrats do have a crisis in leadership right now because Kamala is the front runner in the eyes of many to be the presidential candidate next time around again for the Democrats. You've got the likes of Bernie, you've got that crazy, was it Katie Porter in California, front runner to be governor, Zoran Mamdani in New York. I mean, this seems to be a party that is now led by its most radical elements. What does that mean?
It is a clown car. It is a clown car. If you went to a circus and a little car showed up and then they just coming out with a crazier clown and a crazier clown and a crazier clown. Look, what does it say? It says that the inmates are running the asylum. It says that the liberals did not know how to defend liberalism. And it also says that, look, what does it say about a party when John Fetterman, a man who quite literally had brain damage a year ago, is now the sanest person in the party? But he is, and he's on his way out, and he's on his way out of the party, I would say. He might have a bright future in Republican politics, but unfortunately, the progressives the Marxists, the Islamists, they have all combined into something very, very dangerous. It has rotted out the Democrat Party. And for anyone that is a Democrat of, say, 1992, a Bill Clinton Democrat, or even before that, you are now a Republican. If you think America's fundamentally decent, if you want us to be the last remaining superpower and exert power over the world in a positive sense, which we can and still do, look what just happened in the Middle East, then you should be a Republican. And it's a tenuous thing to hold on the Republican side, but it is way better than that clown car.
Now, the violence of the modern left is a major issue. The Trump administration considers Antifa a domestic terrorist organisation. But you've got some on the left, including late-night TV host Jimmy Kimmel, who seem to think that Antifa are just anti-fascist. Well, the name says they're anti-fascist, so they must be.
Antifa is just short for anti-fascist. It's not a club you can join. There are no membership dues, but they have matching signs. Okay, well, I guess we better round up these domestic terrorists, too. They look pretty matching to me.
Just so asinine and so unfunny. I mean, I would forgive anything if it was funny, but if it's not funny, there's no comedic value there. But he seems to think because they call themselves anti-fascists, then they're anti-fascists. I guess he must think white supremacists are superior because they think they're superior.
It's right there. It's right there in the wording.
North Korea must be some sort of democratic republic. I mean, that is still the argument from the left, that this organised, violent group cannot be organised, cannot be violent, because after all, they're anti-fascist.
Well, it's rather extraordinary because he lives in Los Angeles. Yeah. He shoots his show in Los Angeles. I would recommend that he go somewhere outside of Beverly Hills where they have a pretty good police department and they keep the Antifa people out of Beverly Hills. Go downtown and see the riots, see the violence, see the brick and mortars that have closed or can't keep a window in a shop because it'll get broken. Deal with that a little bit. What's really strange, though, is that a meme has gone out amongst the Democrats, which is basically tell people that Antifa doesn't exist. And what they're telling you is don't see what you can see in front of your eyes. So you have to decide, is this organization that's been burning down the federal courthouse in Portland for years, that has taken over many of these blue cities? See what's going on in CHOP. Well, it doesn't exist anymore, but there was CHOP in Seattle where they had a semi-autonomous zone. So did any of that happen, or did we all dream all of that? I'm fairly certain it happened.
Yeah, exactly. The summer of love. We remember the absolute destruction there. Now, you're in Melbourne at a time where violence, crime is a leading issue on the news. It's on the front pages. It's also a big issue in America. Donald Trump is determined to take on law and order in big cities. It's a very contentious policy of his. Big protests against it. How do you see that? Do you see that as overreach, this federal intervention in cities like Memphis? I know he's already done it in DC and he wants to do it Chicago and throughout so many big cities.
Look, my preference, of course, would be that the mayors of these cities deal with those cities. But the mayors of Chicago, which have been Democrat mayors now for, I think, around 80 years, have decided to allow people to kill people relentlessly in their city year after year after year. Do you know that it's over 7,000 people have been killed by gun violence in Chicago in 10 years? That's 700 people a year. That is unacceptable. And because they won't do anything about it, Donald Trump will. I live in Miami. We are a red state. We are a red city in a red state. We have virtually no crime. Of course, there's always something, but there's, in essence, no crime. And because of that, Donald Trump is not sending the feds into our city. So if you guys want the feds out, instead of complaining about it, how about you clean up your city? Go ahead, clean up Memphis, clean up Seattle, Portland, some of these other cities, and then Donald Trump will not be there. And I promise you, if you do that and you stop letting your citizens kill each other and Donald Trump still goes back in, I will be the first to complain about it.
It seems incredible that you've got a law and order crisis and yet you've got authorities in those cities saying, no, we don't want help. We don't want crime to be reduced dramatically.
Well, Chicago,
we want the criminals to roam free.
Chicago is the craziest one because it happens to be young black men killing young black men, and because that racial component doesn't fit in the intersectional calculator, the mayor, who happens to be a young black man, seems to prefer that young black men die rather than Donald Trump do anything. Yeah. So if you care, I don't care about people's race, but if your argument on the left is always about race, then you should care that young black men are dying, and yet they take the complete opposite position. because Donald Trump is somehow a bad guy for caring about people.
And you look at these protests, so many elderly white folk who live in very safe suburbs marching against these sorts of policies when the beneficiaries are often people living in those inner city areas where crime
kind of makes
rampant.
you think they're the secret racists. They call us all racist while they want the mayhem to take place in the inner city.
Exactly. Now, former White House National Security Advisor John Bolton has been indicted on 18 counts related to the improper handling of classified materials. That's 8 counts of transmission of national defence information and 10 counts of retention of national defence information. Dave, he could be looking at decades behind bars. I mean, these are serious charges.
Yeah, I will tell you in total transparency, this story was breaking as I was on the long flight over here, so I think I missed a few pieces of it. But I would broadly say that this is going to be a problem that we're going to be dealing with increasingly because of the internet age, where back in the day, the information was much more controlled. And now we live in a time when people are sharing things they shouldn't be, but sharing things on, say, Signal chat, or they're sharing things on, apparently he used AOL private, his personal email, his AOL address. And so we're just going to see more and more of this. And if at the end of the day he was actually sharing classified information that shouldn't have been shared, then he's going to pay the price.
Well, let's hope there's some accountability, because I think there's large sections of America that are crying out for accountability. Now, we're also seeing a very divided America. We were both at Charlie Kirk's funeral in Phoenix about a month ago. You're at the forefront of having these difficult conversations. You often engage with your ideological opponents. In light of what happened to Charlie Kirk, are you reluctant to do that now? You're rethinking the merits of that and the danger involved?
Look, there is a certain amount of danger, and it was always baked in. And years ago, Charlie and I used to do college events together. I was on the left and he was on the right. And the whole point, and it was Charlie's idea, was that we were going to disagree about things, but do it respectfully and go to these schools. And unfortunately, things ultimately got much worse. Wokeness got worse. The college system got much worse, all of those things. There obviously is a new concern around security. I had this Australia trip planned before the Charlie event, and there was internal conversations about when, were we going to do it and what level of security I have to have and all of those things. But look, if we in the West are going to suddenly say, well, people have been killed, so we are not going to talk anymore, then we have already given up. I am certainly not ready to give up. I know you aren't ready to give up, and we need more and more people to have that spirit. Otherwise, all of the bad guys who will gladly silence us, they've already won, and we're just basically cooking it. We're the frog, and the pot's cooking, and we're just kind of sitting there basting ourselves.
But some of the data is disturbing.
Yeah.
According to our annual college free speech survey, in 2020, you had 1 in 5 students saying that violence was sometimes okay to stop a speaker. That number now stands at 1 in 3. And that permissive attitude to violence seems to be getting worse, particularly among the left. What's the solution to that? How do we actually counter that when there's this sense of entitlement from so many now that they shouldn't even hear opinions they don't like, that opinions themselves that they don't like are acts of violence?
Well, Rita, this is where you and I found each other on the internet years ago, because there were so few of us willing to talk about this. And I found you, and I was going, well, who is this lady from Australia that's willing to call out these people who are calling us all Nazis, even though we were the complete antithesis of all of that? What do we do about it? I don't know exactly, because how do you deprogram now multiple generations of people that have grown up with terrible education system? Their brains are literally being hijacked by the algorithms, and they're now in peer groups that are all okay with this. When we had in America, we had the shooting of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, which happened in the middle of Times Square, and there was a large swath of the left that said it was okay. He's running a company that's doing bad things. We have healthcare problems. That's okay. And then you saw the reaction by many people on the left to Charlie. So I don't know exactly what the answer to that is, other than we relentlessly must have to defend free speech, and we have to relentlessly show people that our ideas are better. We don't want to silence them through violence. That's a trickier game than choosing the violent route.
Now, before you go, your impressions of Australia. You've been here before, but at the moment we've got a left-leaning Labor government in federally. Most of the states are controlled by Labor, and certainly federally our centre-right coalition is pretty weak, pretty Labor-light. And it's interesting that that's happening in the era of Trump, in the era of Nigel Farage, whose Reform Party is just going gangbusters in the polls. How do you see Australia? Are we kind of falling behind the rest of the world that's having this resurgence, and in Australia they seem to be in their shells?
Well, you know, one of the things I try to do when I travel internationally is never kind of crap on the country I'm in. I'm here to find out what we have in common, and I really do love Australia. And I was supposed to come back for my first book tour, but then that got canceled because of COVID. So I'm very excited to be back here. I love the Australian people. I love the culture. I love the food. I just love everything about the country. So I really am very excited to be back here. However, your federal government does seem to be going the wrong way. We're here in Melbourne right now, and obviously there seems to be some problems here. And as I walked in, I saw the front page of the newspaper, and there's machete attacks, and we have all sorts of these similar problems in our blue cities. But I find it very easy, actually, to disconnect a current government from the people of that place. And I have no doubt that this will probably be a little bit of a leftist cycle you are in. Look, we were just in one in America, and then we got Trump back. So you got to find your Trump, and maybe Rita Panahi will throw her hat into politics.
We just need some politicians with backbone. That would be a very refreshing change indeed. Dave Rubin, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Great to see you.